What's up, you beautiful gamers, and welcome back to Role-Playing Games. Lately, we've had an urge to make every single player game to be an open world, or have portions of it, as well as to make it go for RPG. Is that a bad thing? Well, not always. However, some may argue that there's little that single-player games can do nowadays without adding such features. But we do have games like Devil May Cry 5 out there, for example, to prove that is wrong. Other than that, Marvel's Avengers has been subject to controversy since that beta that showed players what could we expect from the game. Today we're reviewing the final product and see if it's actually worth our while. If you like this stuff, consider subscribing, right? Since there will be more on the way. First, like always, we have graphics, and they're gorgeous from wherever you look at them. One thing that I like to point out here is that not every single game out there manages cinematic transitions to gameplay in the best possible way. If you take a look at Halo 5 Guardians or Destiny 2, to mention a few, you get these awesome cinematic cutscenes that build so much emotion just to be smashed to the ground when you get to the gameplay. Not saying those games had bad graphics, mind you, but the correct handling of these situations can either hurt you or help you. And in Marvel's Avengers, it's the second one. Cutscenes look so gorgeous and immersive. And the amazing part of it is that you'll barely notice it when you're enjoying one of them, and all of a sudden you're on gameplay and have to take the controller back again. And even character models and just all in general when you're actually playing the game feel simply amazing. When someone starts talking while you're playing, lip syncing is on point, and that attention to details is always a joy to have. Particles and visual effects look gorgeous. There are many situations when you're having this Hollywood feeling with everything exploding around you, and you do get this perilous feeling situation due to the amazing lightning, shadowing and particles effects. The draw distance, it's handled so professionally. You have your 3D models of level design and a blend between skyboxes mixed with the 3D models that make the whole level design look just beautiful. Also, we do have a healthy number of different levels and places that add a huge layer of dynamism and make the transition from level to level be so enjoyable and versatile. The animation of characters and scenario destruction around you during the quick time events keep you immersed in this feeling that you're actually there in the movie. And I say in the movie because the main campaign is that a game movie. All this summed up with the amazing blending between cutscenes and gameplay transitions are just outstanding. And then, of course, we have sound.
You'll need a ride.
Really?
And if anyone knows where Tony is, it's Jarvis.
This trail should take us to the Archive's secret entrance.
Cool. Well, it's a nice day for a hike.
Yeah, that's the spirit. Are you wearing that communications button?
We don't take them out! Hurry up, big guy! It can't take much more punishment!
Lucky for you, I am mighty.
Voice acting might feel as it can cause a community splitter. We have to take in consideration that as far as media and pop culture on superheroes, we have the movies as well as the game, or the games. And the voice acting, even when it's excellently done, do bear in mind that it's different from the movies, where we have a more dramatic and linear tone to how the characters speak. They do have their own personalities, but in Marvel's Avengers game they are way much more marked and grounded. We have, for example, Thor, who sounds like this mighty god that even pumps up his chest and all his mightiness when he speaks. And I have to say that this higher mark of personalities do allow to be a catalyst between you and the characters, and get more attached to them based on your personal tastes. As for sound effects, there are little bits of it that need a little bit more polishing, and this has also something to do with gameplay, which we'll discuss later on. But for example, when you hit enemies, with, let's say, Hulk, the sound doesn't match up to what Hulk's supposed to be and hit. And on the music, the pop culture and unconscious prejudices that we have from the movies do hit a little bit. The game's soundtrack sounds amazing, but when you already have tasted something way better, and this might as well be a personal opinion, you expect the same level of greatness. I would have to say that I wouldn't find myself listening to the game's soundtrack just for the joy of it. It just feels like it has such a standard feel to it that we have seen so many times before. And then we can link that to the story. You see, there's very little that can be done when there's so many narrative lines, universes, and overall story writing on the superheroes universe already been done. It starts off with a nostalgia appealing to build the game and make you immerse as a player with Mrs. Marvel. You're playing as this kid and enjoying being there, and notice comics glimpses that make you reminisce of what we've been reading throughout the years. The main character is actually someone you attach to right from the beginning of the game if you're a superhero lover, since it functions as a link between you as a player. The down being here is that the story is nothing we haven't seen before. Heroes get incriminated by AIM and get disbanded and hunted down. It's then up to you to recruit them back up and fix the damage being done to your reputation. But story and narrative, it's not only the main plot of the game. We also have character writing, and here's where they hit the spot. Characters are a blend between movies and comics. You can notice right away from the looks of their armors and outfits that we have a similar look to them in the movies. However, each hero personality being more marked and less linear have a higher tone to those of the comics. Bruce Banner, for example, is this shy guy that thinks way too much before speaking and has this serene voice that makes you feel that he's always thinking, even when he's speaking. While Thor is this mighty, proudful hero that the proudness can be noticed overly exaggerated when you hear him talk. And I don't mean overly exaggerated on a despective manner or unprofessional handle of the actor, but rather on how Thor actually is. Voice acting and writing for the characters is really nailed here. What about gameplay? There's a lot to talk about in here. And this is where the controversy of the game takes place. As for the core of it, we have the main combat system, which is a very responsive hack and slash, but it can be button smashy at times as well. There are some extra additions to gameplay, but overall the game just feels like it holds your hand throughout your entire experience, and there isn't a real challenge in here. This is a matter of personal taste. Like I said before, the main campaign is a game movie approach. You have lots of cutscenes with excellent blend between gameplay and cinematic. There's this early stealth section of the game that has a more dramatic feel to it than a proper stealth. You can just bypass the whole thing without even caring. And then quick time events are really easy to pull off. And you have a huge times between buttons interactions, but animations during the gameplay of it are something out of this world. And all the time you're gonna have these top-notch action scenes that we all love to see in superhero stuff. There are some boss fights that the feeling you get on them and the special character playing it make you feel and see how different each hero of the roster is from one another. The RPG elements do add a lot of the gameplay, since you collect gear pieces that will have different active and passive effects that raise the bridge for personal taste character building, and this is where the whole controversy begins. After you're done with the main story, which you can complete it if you go through it in like 10 or so hours, the endgame content proposal is to team up with people to do side missions where you have to do fights, tons and tons of enemies alongside with your friends. The more you play, the better gear pieces you get and your character gets stronger and allows you to build different kind of active abilities to fight. The problem here is that this commie approach we've all come to hate throughout the years in modern video game history, microtransactions. Through the game, your goal is to get better gear, but this gear doesn't have any visual impact on your characters. This is especially infuriating because that's severing one of the strongest aspects of looter games. Most of the public playing these kind of games like to play a bridge between fashion and usefulness. The rewardness of this kind of genre is severed in half in Marvel's Avengers in order to make you have to purchase hero skins throughout microtransactions. That is a violent approach in the marketing, since they force the player to buy something that has been part of the core of the game and subject to game enjoyment. The deal here as well is that the endgame multiplayer co-op doesn't live up to the marketing focus it got through the announcement up until the release date. The combat system is great, aside from some little stumbles here and there, and with the smashiness, it's responsive and pacing to it, it's remarkably well done, but smashing through enemies on levels and levels of more of the same can get tiresome and repetitive. Once you max out your build, there's nothing keeping you here to play. There's no incentive to the player to continue investing in it. With that being said, I rate my game reviews on whether do I recommend you to get the game, having in consideration your personal tastes and preferences. I break down the game as best as I can so that I can show it to you naked, and then you can make your own judgment and say if you like what you see or you don't. After that, you can see what you're getting into and what you're paying for. Like I said before, the main campaign is like 10 hours long, and the multiplayer content, while enjoyable at first, the repetitiveness and hideous approach to the market that the game has ruin all of the vibe that you had through it playing it. I personally would recommend you to wait for a sale, and even then bear in mind what the game is. If you're a huge superhero lover, then the faithfulness and nostalgia vibes of the main game might be enough to consider experience the main campaign. And if you're a more hardcore gamer that likes to push hours and hours in the game to max out through it, then at the current state of the game I wouldn't recommend it. This is a personal statement and it's a bold one, but we've all seen this countless times before. We have, for example, Battlefront, Anthem, For Honor, through time and outrage of the community playing and the discomfort of the scummy microtransactions behavior from companies, gaming communities have managed to make changes. Battlefront 2, for example, is just a solid game to play nowadays, and that was thanks to the community that stood against it. But even then, without more game modes, the combat system is just not enough, at least not for me, to keep me playing due to the repetitive feeling of the game. And that would be all for today. If you liked the video, then do smash that like button. If you didn't, well, do it as well, why not? And if you do enjoy having these chatters with Material James, do consider subscribing to have around here and see more of this. With that being said, I'll see you beautiful gamers in the next one. Stay awesome.